Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and share.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let's continue our lesson. Okay, now we're going to proceed to the last part in aerobic respiration, which is oxidative phosphorylation. Alright, so in our previous class, this is what we get after the three process. Glycolysis, we get 2 ATP, 2 NADH, and then in link reaction, no ATP reproduced, and the number of NADH is 2. And then for Krebs cycle, 2 ATP, 6 NADH, and 2 FADH2. So in total, ATP produced by substrate level phosphorylation is just 4. Okay, and then NADH produced after all these three process is 10. For FADH2 is 2. So here is our equation. So now the aim is to produce water. Okay, oxygen kita tak guna lagi, and then water kita nak hasilkan water, and also we're going to produce another 34 ATP. Okay, 34 ATP. So when we talk about oxidative phosphorylation, it is a type of ATP production. So as in our beginning of this topic, kita dah terangkan bahawa ATP dihasilkan dalam dua cara. Pertama adalah substrate level phosphorylation, which the substrate will directly transfer its phosphate to ADP so that ATP phosphorylate to become ATP. And then the second way is by oxidative phosphorylation. And when we talk about oxidative phosphorylation, this involves two processes. Okay, first is electron transport chain, second one is chemiosmosis. Okay, so, bila kata oxidative phosphorylation, dia akan melibatkan dua benda ini yang berlaku. Okey, pertama adalah electron transport chain followed by chemiosmosis. Okey. So, before kita go in detail. So, this is the thing yang kamu kena imagine. Okay, the location where this process occur adalah dia akan melibatkan inner membrane of mitochondria. Okay, electron transport chain berlaku dekat inner membrane of mitochondria. So from the mitochondrial structure yang kamu ingat mitochondria ada apa? Double membrane. So here is the outer membrane, then inner membrane, here is the matrix. So dia berlaku di sini, inner membrane. So bila kita cerita pasal membrane pula, recall back in chapter 2, so akan ada elemen yang akan membina membrane. First, of course, the most important one is phospholipid bilayer. Okay, and then protein. Okay, other than that we have cholesterol, we have carbohydrate. Okay, but then ni kita hanya cerita yang basic lah. So from this diagram it show that the inner membrane of mitochondria is composed of is made up by phospholipid bilayer, and then dia ada protein, and then protein in plasma membrane ada two types. Kita ada integral protein dengan kita ada extrinsic protein, ataupun kita ada integral protein dengan peripheral protein. Integral protein means the protein they will be cross the phospholipid bilayer. So maksudnya dia akan cross phospholipid bilayer ni daripada hydrophilic head ke hydrophilic head balik. Okay, so dekat hydrophobic tail ni pun akan ada protein. So maksudnya protein tu cross dari hujung ke hujung. And then when we talk about peripheral protein, it's just a protein that ended yang hanya separuh. Maksudnya dia hanya tertampal separuh sahaja. Dan dia tak akan cross pun protein layer ni. Tak akan cross pun phospholipid bilayer. Contohnya ini, yang nombor 2 ni. So maksudnya dia hanya ada pada separuh sahaja kawasan. Maknanya dia tak akan cross. Dia tak akan merentasi keseluruhan struktur phospholipid bilayer. Okay? Alright, so bila dah faham types of protein, apa yang kamu kena tahu lagi adalah when we talk about electron transport chain, hydrogen atom that carry by NADH and FADH2 will split into proton, hydrogen ion, and electron. So electron is passed from one electron carrier to another. Electron transfer involve redox reaction. So bila kita kata electron transport chain, it involve the transfer of electron, okay, from one electron carrier to another until the final electron acceptor, which is oxygen. And during the process, it may involve redox reaction. Means one molecule will oxidize, another one will which receive the electron will reduce. Okay, so here is the electron transport chain concept. Maksudnya the electron donor is from NADH or FADH2. So NADH and FADH2 they are electron donor. Okay, so the electron will be transfer start daripada mereka lah kepada siri-siri penerima. Okay, so kita nak tengok apa yang kena ada, siri penerima apa. Okay, so from here, okay, from the diagram, we have complex 1. Okay, here is the protein and we call this as complex. Okay, kita ada complex 1, complex 2, complex 3, complex 4. Here is electron transport chain. Have 4 complex, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this complex is actually they have their specific name lah, specific term. Okay, so kita akan tengok. Alright, and this, the Q and the CYTC ni. This Q is referred to ubiquinone. Okay, ubiquinone. And this is referred to cytochrome C. Okay, ubiquinone and cytochrome C, they are not a protein complex like this, but they are as mobile carrier. Mobile carrier. Okay. So, we have two types of pathway in ETC. Dalam ETC, kita ada dua pathway. Pathway yang pertama, involve NADH. Sebab kita ada banyak NADH. Kita ada 10 NADH. So, macam mana NADH ni akan menghasilkan ATP? Okay, so the pathway of electron, kita boleh nampak dekat sini, electron carry by NADH is transferred to complex 1. Okay, so name of complex 1 is NADH dehydrogenase. After that, when this NADH transfer electron to complex 1, NADH oxidize, complex 1 reduce. And then the complex 1 will transfer its electron to ubiquinone. Okay, nampak kan that flow dia dari 1 terus pergi Q. So, dalam kes ini, complex 1 akan oxidize, ubiquinone akan reduce. Okay, and then apa yang jadi, every time the complex of protein, complex 1 oxidize, complex 3 oxidize, complex 4 oxidize, they may pump photon. Okay, they may pump hydrogen ion from matrix to intermembrane space. Okay, so saya terangkan balik. This imagine NADH, we know that NADH is electron carrier. So NADH will transfer electron to complex 1. NADH oxidize, complex 1 reduce. So complex 1 will transfer electron to ubiquinone. Ubiquinone reduce, complex 1 oxidize. So when this complex 1 oxidize, it may pump hydrogen ion from matrix to intermembrane space. Okay. Now the electron is at ubiquinone. So the ubiquinone will transfer electron to complex 3. Okay. So what happened? Complex 3 reduce, then ubiquinone oxidize. Complex 3 will transfer electron to cytochrome C. Cytochrome C oxidize. Complex 3 reduce. Complex cytochrome C reduce. So complex 3 oxidize. So complex 3 will pump hydrogen ion from matrix to intermembrane space. Then cytochrome C will transfer electron to complex 4. Complex 4 reduce, cytochrome C oxidize. Next, complex 4 will transfer electron to the final electron acceptor, which is oxygen. So oxygen will reduce, complex 4 oxidize. Again, when the complex 4 oxidize, it may pump hydrogen ion from matrix to intermembrane space. And then, when the oxygen receives the electron, it will react with hydrogen ion in a matrix to form a water. Okay, so when oxygen is reduced, when oxygen receive electron, it may react with hydrogen ion in matrix to produce water. Okay, so that is the pathway for NADH. So means involve complex 1, ubiquinone, complex 3, cytochrome C, and complex 4. So the complex that form hydrogen ion from matrix to intermembrane space is complex 1, 3, and 4. Okay. So, ada berapa kompleks yang pump? Ada 3. Okay. That is the pathway for NADH. Okay. FADH2, the pathway is different because for FADH2, it will not transfer electron to complex 1. It will transfer electron to complex 2. So FADH transfer electron to complex 2. Complex 2 reduce FADH2 oxidize. Okay, complex 2 will transfer electron to ubiquinone. Ubiquinone reduce, complex 2 oxidize. But as you can see, the structure of complex 2 is not like 1, 3, 4. It's just peripheral 14. So this complex 2, when it oxidizes, it cannot form the hydrogen ion. So no hydrogen ion pump from matrix to intermembrane space. So this ubiquinone will continue transferring the electron. Okay. So ubiquinone transfer electron to complex 3, complex 3 reduce, ubiquinone oxidize, complex 3 transfer to cytochrome C, cytochrome C reduce, complex 3 oxidize, but complex 3, when it oxidize, it will pump the hydrogen ion from matrix to intermembrane space. Okay, and then the cytochrome C will transfer electron to complex 4, complex 4 reduce, cytochrome C oxidize, and complex 4 will transfer electron to final electron receptor, which is oxygen, and then this oxygen reduce, complex 4 oxidize. So when complex 4 oxidize, it will pump hydrogen ion from matrix to intermembrane space. Okay, so for FADH2, only 2 complex will pump hydrogen, which is complex 3 and complex 4. Okay, that is PTC. Okay, ataupun kita panggil sebagai electron transport chain.